I got a stack of books here. June's about to begin. You know what's happening. Let's get to it. Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Zach with Zacks Books, and today I've got for you my June TBR. So Danielle and I, on our latest podcast episode, had discussed some June releases we're most excited about, and so for this video, I'm not going to be talking about those at all. This is going to be other books that I'm going to plan to read for this month. So get excited, good times. I will link these down below if you're intrigued with any of them. And don't forget to drop a like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to check out the podcast, check out Instagram, Goodreads, everything down below. It's a fun zone down there, so check out what you can, and let's hop into some books. Alright, so the first book that I'm going to talk about is Within These Walls by Anya Alborn. So she has been a very big author for me and has been really solid. I have loved pretty much everything I've read by her. Brother was phenomenal. That's one that comes to my mind right now, but I've read like 3 other ones and all of them are really good. Neighbors, I think, was another one. All really solid books by Anya Alborn so far, and I'm loving everything. I'm loving everything by her. So this one, I'll just read the little blurb on the back for you. It says, in her all-new supernatural thriller, best-selling indie horror author Anya Alborn asks, how far would you go for success? What would you be capable of if the promise of forever was real? The cover also looks really cool with like a little child hiding behind a curtain. So I'm excited to get into this. It's a little bit bigger for an Anya Alborn book. All the other ones she's written have been about maybe half the size, maybe a little bit less. So I'm a little intrigued to see how she handles a 400-page book. So we'll get into this for the month of June. So there you have Within These Walls. Alright, the next book I'm going to talk about is what I'm going to consider my classic for the month. If you don't know, each month I try and pick a classic book. Last month was Lord of the Flies, and that didn't go too well. But besides that, all the other classics so far have been relatively pretty good, and the one I picked is, I don't know if you necessarily consider it a classic, but it's a book that I picked up at Barnes & Noble, I think in a recent Come Shop With Me. Check that video up here, and you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about That Was Then, This Is Now by S.E. Hinton. So she is the author of The Outsiders, and that is a book I read in high school that I really want to read again. So maybe I'll read that with this. I don't know. Kind of deciding on it, but I know I really want to get to this because when I posted that video, a lot of people said that this one they actually enjoyed better than The Outsiders. And I really enjoyed The Outsiders, so by what I understand with this, I'll read you what the back says. Since childhood, Brian and Mark have been as close as brothers. Now things are changing. Brian's growing up, spending a lot more time with girls and thinking about who he wants to be. Mark still just lives for the thrill of the moment. The two are growing apart but holding on until Brian makes a shocking discovery about Mark. Now Brian faces a terrible decision, one that will change both of their lives forever. I really hope I am pronouncing Brian right. It's B-R-Y-O-N. I think that's I'm pronouncing it correctly. So again, kind of see a guy with a leather jacket. We'll get into this at some point in the month of June. Again, I'm still deciding whether or not I'm going to add The Outsiders with it or not, but we'll figure it out. But I want to get into this, and that was then, this is now. The next book I'm going to talk about is actually a June release. It comes out June 21st. And this is actually a book that Danielle actually did read, and she really enjoyed it. So that is Hairpin Bridge by Taylor Adams. So this is the author of No Exit, which was one of my top thrillers of 2020, and I really enjoyed that book. So, like we mentioned in the podcast episode, which if you've not checked that out, check it out down below. Most of the thriller books that her and I read, we really want to go into them blind and not really know anything. So I have not talked with her about this book at all because I want to know nothing about it. So I will not even tell you the synopsis, but if you want to check it out, we'll have the book posted down below. If you want to look at it, again, it's not released till June 21st. So, but if you want to check out the synopsis, figure out what it is about, check it out down below. But I want to go into this blind. So, No Exit was really good. So I'm hoping Hairpin Bridge is just as good. According to Danielle, it's pretty good. So there you have Hairpin Bridge, Taylor Adams. Alright, the next book I'm going to talk about is a Joe Hill book, and I have not read a book by him in months. It's been a very long time. The first one I read was Nosferatu, and then I did Strange Weather, which that was not that good. And I think that was in like October of last year, so it's been a couple months since I've read a book by him. And I have put The Fireman in a couple of TBRs since, but I've just not found the time to read that book because it is a really big book. So instead, what I'm going to try and read is Full Throttle. So this is a collection of short stories by Joe Hill. I think there's a couple with his dad involved in here, which is Stephen King, if you didn't know that. Because I know there was a recent release of In the Tall Grass as a paperback that I don't know where everybody found an edition of it, but I really wanted one, and it sold out within like minutes. So, but that story is in this book, and in honor of that coming out, I kind of figured, why not give this one a read because it's in it, and then I can kind of give my opinion about it. But I am very excited about this. It's got a couple short stories in here. I don't remember how many, but it's got a good chunk in here. I don't think it's like different seasons where it's 4 novellas. I think it's actually like collections like Night Shift. So I'm excited to get into this. Another Joe Hill. We'll see how this one goes. There you have Full Throttle. Alright, also in the month of June, I'm going to continue my life at Hogwarts. And so I'm going to be reading Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Woo! So the first 2 books have been really solid. I've given one 5 stars, and I think the other one was probably about 4 stars. Probably 5, I don't know. But they've been really solid. And with last year when we did our one video talking about how we, like, anti-reading tag, I forget what the video was called, but we, like, talked about how much that I did not like Harry Potter, and that I was never going to read it. And now I'm reading it, and I was wrong. I'm sorry, but I'm really enjoying it. And according to what a couple of you guys have said about some of my other videos where I've talked about Harry Potter, or in my post where I talk about Harry Potter, you guys said, I think it's this book, after this one, like the childish stuff kind of stops happening, and you kind of get into some really dark crap. And I'm very excited for that, because that is what I'm used to and what I want to see. So I'm very excited to read this one because I think you guys said it was either this one is the last one or the one I just did, which was The Chamber of Secrets, was the last book where there is like more childish stuff because it starts getting into more darker things, and that's what I'm looking forward to the most. The other thing I will say is the next 4 books after this one are all relatively thick. They're all big. So after this, it's going to be a longer run with trying to read them because they're going to be bigger books. I know the next one, which I think is The Goblet of Fire. I believe that's correct. That one is a relatively large book. And I'm excited to get to it. But first, I got to get through this, which is The Prisoner of Azkaban. Alright, the next book I'm going to talk about is I'm going to call it my vague king pick for the month because it tends to really change, because last month I was supposed to read Cell and I didn't. I ended up reading Night Shift and The Institute, I think, is what I ended up reading. And both of those were... The Institute was a 5-star, and I think Night Shift ended up being 4.5. This is a relatively thicker book, and what I'm starting to realize now with my Stephen King books that I have left, they're either sequels, short stories, or they are gigantic books. I don't really have many short books left because I've just been reading the shorter ones, and now it's going to bite me in the butt because I've got books that are like 500 to 800 pages long that I have to read now. So, but I'm excited for it because Stephen King and I got to read them. So the one that I picked vaguely for the month of June is The Talisman. So what I understand with this is there's a little thing on the back here I'll read for you. On September 15th, 1981, a boy named Jack Sawyer stood where the water and land came together, hands in the pockets of his jeans, looking out at the steady Atlantic. His life seemed as shifting, as uncontrolled as the heaving water before him. His mother was moving him through the world, twitching him from place to place. But what moved his mother? His mother was running. So this is a two-part book that he actually co-wrote with Peter Straub. The other one is Black House, which has got really strong references to the Dark Tower series. This one I don't think has got as many references in the Dark Tower, but it's the first one. I was told I don't necessarily need to read this before I read the second one, but I'm going to because that is how I work. I need to read the first one first. Also, this is supposed to be a trilogy based off of what I read by what King has said. So Peter Straub, Stephen King, let's write the third one here. Let's get it going. Because Gwendy's Final Mission is coming out next year, and that is the final book in that trilogy. And so you guys got to get this third one out. Although I got to read the first two anyway. So, but the vague pick is The Talisman. Also, Lissy's Story is getting a TV series coming out this month, so might end up picking that one. But for right now, I want to do this one because I want to get through The Talisman and Black House. So there you have The Talisman by Stephen King and Peter Straub. Alright, so this is my June TBR. I'm very excited for it. If you're interested in any of these books, we'll have them linked down below. Again, this one is released June 21st, so don't expect to get it until 3 weeks into June. So, very excited for all these. What are some books you're planning to read for the month of June? Let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Later.